At the age of 10, she performed her first miracle. A charitable woman, always concerned with the needy. Today's curiosities are about Saint Genevieve. Here are 10 facts about her. 10. Birth in Nanterre. Saint Genevieve was born in 422 in Nanterre, a small town now part of the Paris metropolitan area in France. She came into the world during a time of great change and challenges, when Christianity was still taking root in the lands that would later become France. Society at the time was largely dominated by paganism, and Christianity, though growing, remained a minority faith, often persecuted. Genevieve's childhood was marked by a Christian environment, possibly influenced by her devout mother. During this period, Christianity was gradually spreading through Gaul, but there was still resistance from pagan traditions and the dominant Roman religion. It was in this context, surrounded by a world that did not fully understand Christianity, that Genevieve's spiritual formation took place. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, be sure to do so to never miss any curiosities about the saints. 9. Prophecy of Saint Germanus. When Saint Genevieve was only 8 years old, a significant event occurred in her life. She was blessed by Saint Germanus, the Bishop of Auxerre, one of the most prominent spiritual leaders of the time. Saint Germanus, known for his holiness and wisdom, had a prophetic vision about the young Genevieve. He foretold that she would become a person of great virtue before God and that, through her example and devotion, many sinners would be converted. This prophecy not only marked Genevieve's life but also made her stand out in her community, as she had received a direct blessing from such a respected bishop. Although very young, Saint Germanus's testimony highlighted the divine grace upon her and the mission God had prepared for her. The promise that she would have a profound impact on others' spiritual lives stayed with her throughout her life. Over the years, Genevieve proved faithful to this prophecy, living with exemplary devotion and reaching many through her prayers, kindness, and faith. As predicted, she helped convert many sinners, drawing them to Christianity through her virtuous and compassionate life. 8. First miracle. One of the first miracles attributed to Saint Genevieve occurred during her childhood, demonstrating her extraordinary faith and prayer even at a young age. Around the age of 10, her mother, initially skeptical of Genevieve's deep devotion, forbade her from attending church services. However, Genevieve, with a fervent heart, withdrew to pray passionately, asking God to intervene for her and her family. Soon after, something extraordinary happened. Her mother, who had shown no previous signs of illness, suddenly lost her vision. This event was immediately interpreted as divine punishment for attempting to hinder her daughter's devotion. Stricken with despair, Genevieve's mother recognized what had happened and begged God for forgiveness. Without hesitation, Genevieve sought a solution. With great confidence in divine intervention, she washed her mother's eyes with holy water she had consecrated through her prayers. To everyone's astonishment, a miracle occurred. Her mother's vision was instantly restored. This miracle marked a turning point, not only for her mother but also for Genevieve's reputation as a woman of remarkable holiness and prayer. It solidified her faith and began her journey as an intercessor before God, becoming a living testimony to her spiritual power and devotion. Leave your prayer request in the comments for Saint Genevieve to intercede for you before God. 7. A rigorous religious life. At the age of 15, Saint Genevieve decided to dedicate herself entirely to religious life and, with some friends, founded a religious association. Together, they formed a community devoted to prayer, penance, and charity. During a time when Christianity was still establishing itself in Gaul, Saint Genevieve's life became a testimony of deep faith and fervent religious practice. Austerity and discipline formed the core of her spirituality. Genevieve embraced a simple and humble existence, seeking closeness to God through suffering and self-denial. She chose to sleep on the floor as a sign of humility and detachment from worldly comforts. Her diet was extremely simple, mainly consisting of bread and barley, reflecting her desire to live austerely, free from material pleasures. Alongside her personal penance, Genevieve and her companions devoted themselves wholeheartedly to charitable works. They helped the needy, cared for the sick, assisted the poor, and comforted the afflicted. For Genevieve, charity was a natural extension of her prayer life, as she believed serving others was a way of serving God. This period of intense religious life and total dedication to prayer and penance transformed Genevieve into an example of holiness for Christians in the region. 6. Saving Paris from Attila. In 451, Paris faced a grave threat. Attila the Hun, known for his brutality and military conquests, was marching toward the city. The people of Paris were terrified and feared imminent destruction, as Attila's invasions were notorious. However, during this time of great panic, Saint Genevieve demonstrated extraordinary courage and faith. Rather than succumb to fear, Genevieve took charge, urging Parisians to remain steadfast and trust in God's protection. She encouraged them not to flee but to unite in prayer, relying on the power of faith. With her spiritual authority, Genevieve organized a vigil of prayer, calling everyone to implore divine mercy to spare the city. Through her leadership, she gathered a large number of people in fervent prayer. Meanwhile, Attila, who had already conquered large parts of Europe, inexplicably withdrew and abandoned his invasion of Paris. The exact reason for his retreat remains a mystery, but many believe that divine intervention, prompted by Genevieve's prayers and those of the Parisians, was instrumental in saving the city. 5. Food distribution in times of famine. During a period of severe food shortages, when famine plagued the region of Paris and its surroundings, Saint Genevieve once again demonstrated her profound dedication to charity and the welfare of the most vulnerable. The city faced a grave crisis, and its inhabitants struggled to survive, as the fields around Paris lay barren and resources dwindled. Aware of the misery afflicting her people, Genevieve decided to take practical and effective action to alleviate their suffering. With her tireless spirit and love for the poor, she committed herself to procuring food for those starving to death. Instead of merely offering words of comfort, she took bold and decisive action. She boarded a boat and sailed down the Seine River. On this journey, she visited rural communities along the riverbanks, appealing for help from those who still had some food to spare. She generously gathered what she could, bringing back bread, grains, and other essential provisions for those in need. Saint Genevieve's generosity was not limited to collecting supplies. She also ensured that the distribution was fair, guaranteeing that all who were in need received food. Genevieve continued distributing the provisions with unwavering dedication, saving many lives and bringing hope to the desolate. Her charitable actions were more than just a response to the food shortage. They were an expression of her deep Christian love and a testament to her courage and compassion in the face of adversity. 4. Founding churches. Saint Genevieve played a crucial role in the founding and construction of significant churches in Paris, marking one of her greatest contributions to the religious and cultural life of the city. Her dedication to faith and the spread of Christianity was evident through her leadership in establishing sacred sites that became landmarks in the Church's history in France. One of her most notable initiatives was the founding of a church over the tomb of Saint Denis, the first bishop of Paris and a martyr who was beheaded around the 3rd century. Recognizing the importance of the site, Genevieve spearheaded the construction of a church on the hill of Saint Denis, which would later become one of the most revered centers of Christianity in France. This church eventually evolved into the Abbey of Saint Denis, a major pilgrimage site and symbol of French spirituality. Over the centuries, many French kings would be buried there, solidifying the abbey's religious and political significance. Additionally, Genevieve helped establish a church dedicated to Saints Peter and Paul, two central figures in early Christianity. This church symbolized her commitment to promoting Christian faith and providing the faithful with a sacred space for worship and sacraments. Saint Genevieve's church-building efforts were not merely architectural or urban initiatives. They reflected her vision of a Christian Paris, where the faithful could gather for prayer and contemplation. Her leadership in creating these churches highlighted her deep spirituality and commitment to fostering a sacred environment for future generations. 3. Death, Canonization, and Liturgical Day. Saint Genevieve passed away in 502 at the age of 89, after a life devoted to faith, charity, and the protection of Paris. She was buried in a church dedicated to the Apostles, in a location that later became a significant site of veneration. Her death marked the end of an extraordinary life, but her legacy continued in the prayers and devotion of the people of Paris. From the moment of her death, Genevieve was recognized as a figure of great holiness, and Paris began to invoke her as its protector. Belief in her miracles and divine intercession spread rapidly, especially in times of calamity. Her name became synonymous with spiritual resilience and divine protection, often called upon during invasions, plagues, famines, and other disasters. Although her canonization did not occur immediately after her death, it was a formal acknowledgement of her sanctity by the Church. She was canonized as a saint due to her exemplary life and enduring influence on Paris and beyond. Her liturgical day is celebrated on January 3rd. 2. Miracle during the plague. In 1130, Paris was ravaged by an epidemic known as the Burning Plague, a highly contagious and deadly disease that left the population terrified and desperate. During this time of great suffering, the faith of Parisians in their patroness, Saint Genevieve, intensified. They turned to her intercession, seeking relief from the calamity. The city's inhabitants organized a grand procession in honor of Saint Genevieve, carrying her relics through the streets of Paris in the hope that her intervention would bring an end to the plague. The devotion was so fervent that the entire population united in a collective plea for divine help. What followed was interpreted as a miracle. After the procession and prayers dedicated to Saint Genevieve, the epidemic began to subside, and the plague disappeared inexplicably. The people of Paris firmly believed that the saint's intervention was the reason for the sudden and mysterious cure, attributing the end of the calamity to her intercession. 1. Desecration of her relics during the French Revolution. During the French Revolution, Paris and France as a whole experienced a period of great upheaval and violence characterized by a rejection of Catholicism and persecution of religious symbols. The Jacobin government, seeking to eradicate the old regime and establish the French Republic, implemented harsh measures against the Church, resulting in the destruction of churches, religious monuments, and saintly relics. The relics of Saint Genevieve, venerated for centuries as a symbol of protection and divine intervention, did not escape this wave of destruction. In 1795, during the Revolution, her relics were desecrated and burned by revolutionaries as part of an effort to eliminate the influence of the Catholic Church and dismantle the country's religious traditions. Years after the revolution ended and religious worship was restored, a new tomb was built in her honor. In 1800, the French government, distanced from the revolutionary violence, ordered the construction of a new tomb for Saint Genevieve, reaffirming her importance in Paris's religious history. The Abbey of Saint Denis, where she had originally been buried, was restored, and the cult of Saint Genevieve was re-established. Although her physical relics were destroyed, the spirit and memory of Saint Genevieve survived, becoming a symbol of the resilience of faith and the enduring legacy of sanctity, which persisted despite persecution and destruction. And so concludes another story full of fascinating details. Don't forget to leave a comment with which saint's story you'd like to see next on this channel. Until the next story.